Good evening and welcome to the December 2016 Richardson Law Office's Legal Hangout. I'm Steve Richardson, and today we're going to talk about New Jersey drunk driving law. Christmas is this Sunday, and Hanukkah starts on sundown of Christmas Eve. So the holidays will be in full swing this weekend and ending, of course, with New Year's Eve on Saturday the 31st, and the recovery, which will follow on Sunday, January 1st. So, as in last year, this time of year, I like to talk about drunk driving, which obviously is a problem around the holidays, not just Christmas and New Year's, but other times of the year, but it tends to be quite a problem now. So I wanted to talk about that with you a little bit. And first, as I've been doing recently, and just as a general disclaimer, I'm a New Jersey attorney here in Woodbury, Gloucester County, New Jersey, southern half of the state, and I practice New Jersey law. And this program is about issues of New Jersey law, New Jersey drunk driving law. So if you are watching from another state, and then take it with a very big grain of salt, because a lot of this may not apply in your jurisdiction. And I'm going to be talking about New Jersey, so that's that. And second of all, if you have been stopped for drunk driving, or after you see this episode and during the holidays you are stopped, don't take what I tell you here as legal advice. I'm speaking in general terms of New Jersey law. Each case is different and needs to be evaluated on its merits. So if you have been charged with drunk driving, please see an attorney right away and get a legal evaluation of your case. But today I just want to give some general ideas of New Jersey law to give you an idea. And of course, this is because it's not it's not legal advice. It's really for informational purposes only. So please take that in the spirit it's intended. Now, before we get into issues of drunk driving and the law, let's talk first about an ounce of prevention. What you can do to keep yourself from getting a ticket in the first place, because obviously that's the best solution and the best way to go about things. And I wanted to talk a little bit about some of that. Obviously, as it says, don't drink and drive. So if you're going to be out celebrating away from home and you are drinking, just don't drink. And if you are drinking, don't drive. Now, if you find yourself in a situation where you have had too much to drink and don't feel you should drive, and even if you just think you shouldn't, as the commercials here in New Jersey you often see, buzzed driving is drunk driving. If you even think, I mean, obviously it's best that if you're drinking at all, you don't drive. But if you're not sure, best not to. But what do you do if you don't have a designated driver, if it's just you and you got to get home? Well, here are some suggestions to look into. There are some designated driver programs. Check for here in southern New Jersey. Check at southern New Jersey and the Philadelphia and surrounding area. Check out an outfit called Sober Sam. You can find them at sobersam.com. And what they'll do is they'll come pick you up, take you home. It's a designated driver service in southern New Jersey, in the Philadelphia area, as I said, and it's the idea is to get you home safely without running into the dangers and risks of drunk driving. Their telephone number is 856-520-5679. I'll try to leave that in the show notes for today's episode. But that's one option, sobersam.com. They're not cheap, though. They are It's $15 for the first mile and $4 for each additional mile. And if you're out really late and it's after 3 a.m., well, there's an additional $10 charge. If you're out partying and several of you, there's more than one of you, and you've both been drinking, you and your spouse, you and a friend, you can also go into a pricing structure of $35 an hour for 2 people up to 20 miles from the place of pickup. And after that, there's a $5 hourly charge for each additional person and 50 cents per mile after the original 20. So there's some pricing information on their website. You can check it out. Good to plan in advance. AAA has their Holiday Safe Riding program, but it is not available in all states, and I'm not sure. I don't believe it's in New Jersey, but AAA is something to check out. Maybe check with if you're a member of AAA. Maybe there's a member benefit. Check that out and see. Also, there's a site called drinkinganddriving.org. Now, this is not a ride service in and of itself, but it is an index to rideshare services in your area. Now, in New Jersey, and this is national, it's throughout the country, they provide information and contact information for companies that provide ride services. Now, New Jersey is one of only 3 states where there's actually a service in every county. So New Jersey's got good coverage. There's no excuse for not contacting and getting a ride if you're not sure if you should be driving. And obviously, this is going to take a little bit of advance planning on your part. Write it up, put a card in your wallet with the contact information. So if you're driving drunk or you're worried about driving drunk, you can call this service and get a ride. And what's really great about these services is that you don't have to leave your car. All right? It's usually done in one of 2 ways. The company will drive up with 2 people, and one of them will get into your car and drive you home, and the other will follow in the other car so that they get you home. And the other is through a scooter, sort of thing where they ride up on a scooter, it folds up, goes into your trunk, then they drive you home. So the idea is you get home. It's not like you're calling a cab or calling Uber and now your car's in the parking lot of the bar or restaurant or friend's house or whatever. They're getting your car home. So that's a nice additional perk. And you can check out their pricing on their individual websites. As I said, drinkinganddriving.org is an index site that will you drill down to your area. You pick your state, then pick your county, where you're going to be, where the pickup is going to be, pickup location, and then you get the contact information for the appropriate ride share service or ride service. So plan in advance and have that ready. I'm not sure how it works if you're partying in one county and you live in another county, but as I said, reach out. You may not need it, but it's always good to have it there in your wallet if you do. Another thing to be aware of, and I can't say I really approve of this or could really endorse it, because they're kind of like radar detectors in your car to avoid speed traps. But there is a way of knowing where the roadblocks are. Starting around Thanksgiving, the police around the country and in New Jersey are setting up roadblocks, checkpoints, where they're going to check drivers. They are legal if they are set up and run properly. There's some information on my website about that and what they have to do. But one of the things they have to do is advance notice. They have to let people know that they're going to be there, that they're going to be checking. Well, there's a website called DUIblock.com, and they keep track of all this, all the notices. They aggregate the information, where and when the roadblocks are going to be, and they'll send you an email or a text or both letting you know where they are. Now, there's a free trial for 30 days. So you might want to sign up now, get you through the holidays. And hopefully that's all you'll need. But if you want to continue to have the service, it's $3.99 a month or $29.99 for the year. And they'll keep you informed of where the roadblocks are, and you can, I guess, use that to plan your route home to try to avoid roadblocks. That's not going to get rid of the risk of you being stopped, because a police officer can still see you weaving on the road or some such thing. We'll get into that in a moment. But you can still be pulled over and charged with drunk driving even if you're not caught at a checkpoint. But DUIblock.com can get you that information by email and text, so you can avoid the roadblocks. Another way to avoid it simply is to celebrate at home. You not only avoid problems of drinking and driving, but you'll save a lot of money, because from my experience, and my wife and I have looked into this, it's expensive to go out on New Year's Eve. It's not cheap. So save some money, stay home, celebrate at home, maybe get together with some neighbors that can all party at your house, or you party at their house, and then you walk home. Maybe make some arrangements with neighbors for celebration. And that way you don't have to worry about drinking and driving, or even if you're sober, driving home on the roads where there might be some drunk drivers that might pose a risk to you. So celebrate at home. And of course, finally, there's, well, designating a driver. Just have someone that's going to be the person that's going to get you home. They don't get to celebrate with alcohol, but they'll keep everybody safe and not charged with it, not expose you to potential of a drunk driving ticket. And just to say, some of these ride services and everything, it might be a bit expensive to get you home, but believe me, a drunk driving charge in New Jersey is a lot more expensive than that. You can pay $1,000 or more in just in attorney's fees to defend you in a drunk driving charge, depending upon where you are in New Jersey. Rates vary and who you hire. They can be very expensive. And if you're convicted, there are the fines and costs associated with that. There's also a $1,000 annual surcharge for 3 years, so that's $3,000 in surcharges right there. And then you add on the fines and costs, and guess what? Your license gets suspended. And in New Jersey, as opposed to some other states, there's no limited driver's license to get you back and forth to work. You can't drive, period. So somebody better be able to drive you to work, or get into a carpool or public transportation. And God forbid that your job depends on driving, like a delivery person or some such thing as that, because then you're out of a job. And that's an even bigger economic hit that you're going to have. So believe me, the cost of a ride home is well worth it, and a good investment, because the costs are far too much. Even with drunk driving with a first offense, it's depending upon what your breathalyzer reading is. If it's a 0.08 to 0.99 on a first offense, it's a 3-month suspension. If it's 0.10 or higher, it's a 7 to 12-month suspension. Second offense is 2 years suspended, and at least a couple days in jail. And third suspension is 10 years and 6 months in jail. So not worth it. Okay. It just isn't. All right. So that's the way to try to avoid getting the ticket. But what happens if you get a ticket? I'm going to talk about that briefly. And actually, this will just to give you an idea of your case before you even see an attorney. again, if you get a drunk driving ticket in New Jersey, talk to an attorney. All right, you don't want to handle this yourself. You don't want to deal with it yourself. It's just too significant. The penalties are just too significant. If you can't afford an attorney, there is a public defender program. There is a minor cost to pay for that public defender program, but a lot cheaper than paying a private attorney. So definitely get an attorney. Okay, so let's talk about what happens in a drunk driving case. Well, first of all, in order for the police officer to pull you over, has to have probable cause. He just can't do it because he feels like it. Usually, the probable cause for drunk driving stop is is the way the officer observes you driving. You're driving in a suspicious manner. A lot of times, it's weaving in the road. You're not maintaining your lane. Now, New Jersey case law says that you have to swerve to one side or the other, in and out of your lane at least twice. Every once in a while you move to one side or the other, but we're talking about weaving in the road, some erratic driving, or it could be some other way in which they could just stop you because they think you're driving carelessly, or for some other reason that other than some indication that you're intoxicated. They may have pulled you over for something else. And then as they talk to you, realize, hey, wait a minute, this guy's drunk. But they still have to have probable cause, as I said, usually weaving the road. I had one case where my client blew through a couple stop signs before it was finally pulled over. Something that grabs the attention of the police officer. They can't just pull you over for no reason whatsoever. So there has to be some probable cause to stop you. That's the first thing. Now, they've stopped you. What's next? Well, one thing is, where are you driving? You have to be operating a motor vehicle while under the influence of alcohol or certain drugs. All right. Now, when I say certain drugs, the drug has to be a narcotic, habit-forming, or an hallucinogenic. So there are particular drugs that count, and other medications don't, at least under that statute. So you have to be driving. Well, that may seem kind of obvious. They pull you over, they see you're at the wheel. But there have been cases in which the officer, by the time he stops the car, it's not always that obvious who was driving. For example, there was a case in which the officer was following a car. The car went around a bend, lost sight of the officer, or lost sight of the vehicle. And by the time he got there, the people who were in the car were all out of the car, sitting on the curb. They all remained silent. The officer cannot determine which one of them was actually driving, even though one of them may have been drunk. So, operation. Did they actually see you operate the vehicle? Now, you're the only one in the car. It doesn't take much to figure out that you're the operator, you're the driver, but that is still an issue that needs to be addressed in a drunk driving case. Now, next, they have to have probable cause to arrest you. This usually starts with the officer comes up to your vehicle, asks you for your license, registration, and insurance, and as he's talking to you, he is observing you, and he or she may notice smell of alcohol in your breath, watery, bloodshot eyes. As you're speaking, your speech is slurred. Your hand movements are fumbling or slow. There are a lot of indicia that indicate this person might be intoxicated. So at that point, the officer would then order you out of the car and conduct what's called a field sobriety test. Now, the officers need to be properly trained in how to do these tests. There is some science behind them, and they have to be done usually on a clean, dry surface, level surface, which can become important for obvious reasons as I go through the test. But we've all heard stories about, the recite the alphabet or touch your nose, that sort of thing. But those tests don't count. They're not scientifically accurate or reliable to show intoxication. And basically, scientific studies have shown that if an officer conducts 3 tests and you fail all 3 tests, then there's a high probability that you are impaired. At least a high enough probability to arrest you and take a breath sample. Now, the first test is called a horizontal gaze nystagmus test. The officer will shine a light in your eye and ask you to follow an object, either a pen or his finger or some such thing as that, without moving your head. So it's just your eyes going back and forth, following this object. And they'll look and see, do your eyes track smoothly going back and forth? And they score each eye. And if you fail 2 of the 3 tests on each eye, then you failed that test. The next test is the walk and turn test, otherwise known as walking a straight line, classic drunk driving test. You are expected to walk heel to toe, 9 steps, turn, and then walk heel to toe, 9 steps back. And the officer looks to see, did you put out your arms to balance yourself? Did you fail to walk heel to toe, or did you just walk a line like a tightrope walker? Did you walk more than 9 steps, less than 9 steps? Did you have difficulty making the turn? These are all things they look at to see whether there's intoxication. Did you step off the line to the side to maintain balance? The third test is the one-leg stand test. And where you just, as I said, lift up one foot and hold it up for usually about 30 seconds. And the officer looks to see, are you sort of hopping up and down? Are you raising your arms to balance yourself? Do you keep putting your foot down? Things like that. That may indicate that you have a balance problem. Now, this isn't always indicative. There are medical problems that you could have. I had a client, she had an arthritic left knee, and she stood on her left foot. And she told the officer, I have an arthritic left knee. Stood on her left foot. So that can be a problem. I had another client. It wasn't that high a reading, but the field sobriety test was bad. Well, guess what? He was on a list waiting for double knee replacement. And he had problems because of his legs, because of his knees. So there can be medical problems that can interfere with your ability to do the test properly, and that can come into play. So, you might tell the officer, and usually they'll ask, do you have any medical problems or conditions that might interfere with your ability to do the test? Now, once you take the test, and so when you fail the test, you then would be arrested and taken back to the station. Now, some things to bear in mind there. Once you get to the station, they have to do certain things before they take a breath sample. First, they have to observe you for 20 minutes. Now, this is because some things can throw off a breathalyzer. If you belch, if you throw up into your mouth a little bit, or that can cause a high concentration of ethanol in your mouth during that period of time, and then when you blow into the tube, an inordinately high amount of ethanol gets blown into the machine and measured, and that can throw it off. So the officer must watch you for at least 20 minutes to make sure you do not belch, throw up, put anything into your mouth, or anything else that might throw things off. Also, they must take your cell phone from you. So consider when they took you in and they did the breathalyzer, did they have you empty your pockets? Did you put everything into a bin that was then taken out of the room? Or did they let you have your cell phone, or not even ask you if you had your cell phone with you? Because that has the potential of throwing off the breathalyzer machine. So in order for that reading to be acceptable into evidence, you can't have a cell phone with you. So that's a consideration. And the last thing I would say, hopefully you didn't do this, don't refuse the breathalyzer. Okay. Some people think, well, you know, they can't do that because it violates my Fifth Amendment rights against self-incrimination. I'm giving them evidence. Sorry, no Fifth Amendment rights. Okay, not for a breathalyzer. It's already been well determined. They can't take a breath sample. You know, I'm under arrest. I want a lawyer. They can't do anything without a lawyer. You don't have a Sixth Amendment right to a lawyer. But what the police do have to do is read you a standardized form. They read you a statement that tells you all of this. You basically have to take the breathalyzer test, and this is why. And they have to read a specific form that says standardized form, standardized statement. If you give some sort of non-committal answer, it's unclear, they then have to read a second portion. If you say no at either point, that's it. It's refusal. And it has the same penalties as drunk driving. Well, guess what? Maybe you had a defense to drunk driving. Okay? Maybe they didn't, you know, there are all sorts of things that if you had just blown into the tube, if you had just given the sample, they may not have observed you for 20 minutes. The officer may not have been up to date on his training on how to operate and maintain the breathalyzer. Maybe there was something wrong with the breathalyzer. There are all sorts of defenses that may come into play on a drunk driving case that you simply no longer have because now you have a refusal. And guess what? You're charged with both. All right? So even if the drunk driving case, the reading gets thrown out, the entire drunk driving case falls apart, there's still the refusal. So don't refuse the breathalyzer. So that gives you an idea of your case and something to think about if, God forbid, you are stopped for drunk driving. But that will give you some idea. Now, you can get more information from my website. You can download my book, How Much Trouble Am I In? A Guide to New Jersey Drunk Driving Law. And it goes into this in a little bit more detail, a lot of the points I mentioned today. There are also lots of videos. There's a video on each of the field sobriety tests. There's even a playlist right there on my channel at richardsonlawoffices.tv where you're viewing this, where you can get additional information. So be sure to download that book. You can also, if you have any questions, you're here in the South Jersey area, you want to talk to me about your drunk driving case, I can be reached at 856-413-4113 or 856-686-9910. And I'd be happy to sit down and look at your case. So if you like this video, you found it informative and enjoyed it, I'd appreciate it if you click that thumbs up button down there and give me a like. It'll help boost the ratings on YouTube and get this viewed by more people. And if you like what you see on this channel, there are all sorts of videos and things like that that are available here. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Now, I've been doing these legal hangouts here on Google Plus and streaming into my YouTube channel for a couple years now, usually on the fourth Thursday of the month. But with Christmas and everything, I'm doing a little early this year. In December I do it. But I may be moving over to Facebook. There are, I don't know whether if you're on Facebook, a lot of Americans are. There's what's called Facebook Live. It's a lot more interactive, which I try to make this interactive as far as submitting questions and things like that. But I may be moving over there. So this may be the last one I do. I'm not sure. But the next Hangout, to continue with it, will be on January 26, 2017 at 5 p.m. Additional information will be posted in the comments to this video as far as additional episodes. So that's it for this month. Hopefully this is knowledge you will not need, and you'll have a wonderful Christmas or Hanukkah. and a happy new year, and a fresh start for the new year without a drunk driving charge. So that's it. Good night and happy holidays.